Hello, I'm William Michael of the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, and a frequent question that I receive that I'd like to respond to is whether I'll be making more lesson videos for actual lessons in courses in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy. In the past, I have published lesson videos to address certain subjects within courses that are difficult, that I felt needed the help of some video explanation. But I haven't been doing that, and parents have written, students have written asking whether I'll be making more lesson videos. And it's a very complicated situation, actually, because for a normal school teacher, for a normal teacher, for a normal situation where someone is putting together an online course, there's really not much content that needs to be addressed, and it's not difficult to make videos for one course. It's not difficult to make videos for one class of students and so on. But in my situation, I'm really not doing the work of a normal teacher. I'm developing and publishing an entire curriculum that serves a number of different purposes, that includes over 100 online courses. And so my work is a lot more complicated than simple teaching. And this question of video production becomes a very complicated one. First of all, remember that I'm a classicist. That's my actual profession, my expertise. I'm a classicist. I'm a Catholic classicist. I'm not a web developer. I'm not I'm not working in a production studio or anything like that. I study the classical liberal arts. I study the Catholic faith. That's what I do, and I work with students. And the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, through the years, developed without my planning. It developed, and I have had to respond to the program's development, to interest in the program, to all different sorts of providential events that were not in my control. And it's been a very complex project that's developed piece by piece. And now when visitors come to the website, look at the study center, there's this massive complex program. And I would love to say that there's some giant team of highly funded experts working together to put all this together, but that's simply not true. It's basically my wife and I, two Catholic classicists, doing this work. And just as I learned about St. Dominic when he founded the Dominican order, he had no plan for what was to be done. He simply focused on present needs and challenges in front of him, and worked to solve them. And in St. Dominic's case, the order developed by God's direction. And in some ways, obviously I'm not comparing myself to St. Dominic, but in some ways I see a similar situation in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, where there has never been a plan, and there is no plan today except to continue to work, to research, restore, publish, and teach the classical Catholic curriculum, and even more importantly, to help present students, because they have to learn right now. Their window of opportunity for a classical Catholic education is open right now and is closing year by year. So my first concern is always for present students, helping them as much as possible. And then my longer term concern is for the development of the classical Catholic curriculum and its restoration. So when we consider the size of the project, the number of courses, the fact that I have a large number of currently enrolled students of all different ages and abilities, all different locations around the world, the idea of making lesson videos sounds like a good idea until you think about, the logistics of that. How would that actually work? Let's take a course like Latin Reading 1, one of our most popular courses. We read the Gospel of John. Wouldn't it be great if I could make lesson videos to walk the students through each of those lessons? Well, sure it would be. There's 30 or so lessons in the course, and it would be great if I made videos to walk the students through those lessons. That would be one course. That wouldn't help the kids in classical grammar or elementary grammar or English reading or classical reasoning or classical ethics. And so you see, these would be great undertakings that would actually help a small number of students. They wouldn't, in the bigger picture, be very helpful. And to be honest, as I've tried to communicate, all along, there is one teacher. That's the motto of the Classical Liberal Arts Academy. There is one teacher. There is one master. And that's Christ himself, who is our wisdom. He is the truth. I am not the teacher of these arts and sciences. I'm not the teacher of these subjects. I am myself a student of these arts and sciences, and I will be for my entire life. Any time that I make a video or a lesson or anything, in a short period of time, my knowledge of the subjects and studies increases, and I'm no longer satisfied with what I would produce. And I know that's not just me trying to sound humble. That's a reality. I'm learning, and I'm learning very quickly because I've been in this, without distraction for so long. But anything that I produce, I would consider to be not of sufficient quality to want to promote or to keep just a short time later. When you read about writers and teachers throughout history, you'll find that they very often worked throughout their life to write and teach, and then when they came to the end of their life, they actually asked that their works would be destroyed. And the reason why is because the more we study and the more we learn, the more we realize we don't understand, and the less and less we respect the work that we've done. And that's how I feel with videos. It takes a great deal of time to produce a video, especially a video that's intended to be used for a long time, for multiple years in the case of recorded videos, for lessons and things like that. And I just don't think that it's valuable. I know they may be helpful, relatively speaking, they're more helpful than no video. But if you consider my role as the director of this whole project, it's just not possible. Now, there's a lot more to this than just that. As I mentioned before, I'm concerned about current students, and I want to provide them with as much help as possible. For me to devote hundreds and hundreds of hours to making recorded videos for lessons for, one course, that work, which would be very great work, would serve a very small number of my students, and it would only serve them in one subject. And so if you'll focus on the students as I prefer to do, you'll see that making those videos would not be very helpful for the students. It might be helpful for an individual course, but it would not be helpful for the students. Another consideration is, speaking practically and financially, the work that we do in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy is possible because of the financial support of parents who enroll students in the program, and the financial support that we receive is primarily concerned with benefits to be received by the students, as it should be. The parents are paying for their children to receive help and instruction and support and so on. And if I'm investing all of my time in the improvement of the program for the long term and neglecting today's needs among the enrolled students, then I'm not serving the parents well who are actually supporting the work financially. If someone wanted to support the mission financially and say, just make videos for the courses, well, that would be different, but that's not how the Academy actually operates. The Academy doesn't operate on donations. It operates on tuition payments from parents who are seeking the best possible education for their children right now. That's what they're paying for, and out of respect for that, that has to be my primary concern. So there are lots of issues, and making videos is not so simple. I could do it, of course, but there are alternatives. There are other options that, in my experience, because I have considered doing this, and I've started and experimented with doing this, but I've found each time that it's really not a good idea. Now, what I would propose is something different. And this is something that I would be more interested in, but it's complicated, and at this point at least, I don't have an answer for how it could be done. But I think this would be a better option. What I think would be better would be, rather than me making videos and just posting them on course lesson pages for students to watch, I think it would be more effective because it would be more beneficial for students today. And they're the only students that I'm concerned with. I don't think about students that will enroll tomorrow, because that brings us to this moral dilemma of, one in the hand versus two in the bush. I have present students to concern myself with. There are future students, but they're all potential. I don't know who they'll be or how many there'll be, or what the future will hold, and I don't think about that. I think about my present students, because that's really all that matters. When I think about my present students, what I think the best thing would be is if meetings could be organized for students in the same course to gather together and have me work with them as a group in that course. Now, you can immediately start to think of logistical problems with that, because these things are complicated. You can say, well, these kids are on different lessons, first of all. You could say, these kids are in different time zones. How are the kids in Australia and the kids in the UK and the kids in the 4 different time zones in the United States, how are they possibly going to work together? And you can see that logistically, this gets very complicated. I would be willing to work with those kids in group meetings. I don't know how those group meetings would be organized at this time, but I would be willing to work with present students because present students are real. Present students are real students. Potential students don't exist. Future students or prospective students don't exist in the academy. I'd be willing to work with present students in sort of a group video meeting setting, and I'd be willing to walk through the lessons with the students together, helping them presently, having some time for reading through the lesson, having some time for commentary on the lesson, and having some time for a discussion or question and answer with the students. All of that activity could be recorded and saved and uploaded as a video that future students or even those present students could make use of. But my actual work would be concerned with the present students, not with the video for future students. And I would be willing to do that same work over again in future years with present students. So that would be more of an interest to me, to actually work with the students in video meetings and to do so live on video in scheduled classroom meetings as groups, and simply record those meetings. That would be, I think, more responsible, considering that my present students are all that really exists. So that's what I'd like to share as my response on this question of whether I will make lesson videos. I would love to, if that was how the Academy worked, if that was how the work of the Academy was funded, if that was how my time for this work was provided for, I would be very happy to do that. But that is not how the Academy works. That's not how my time is provided for. And therefore it's simply not sustainable. It's not fair. It's not fair to the parents paying for services and programs that are present and active, for me to use the money they pay to go and produce videos for my own long-term benefit. And that's just not a just use of the parents' tuition payments. And that's why I can't justify spending time doing that when there's grading that the present students need, there's questions from the present students I can ask, there's tutoring work to be done with those present students, planners to be updated, and so on. There's so much work to be done for the present students. I can't justify spending that time working on videos for the long-term benefit of the Academy and then billing that work to those parents who aren't paying for that work to be done. So that's the dilemma with video production. And I'm not going to ask parents to make donations and things like that, because I don't think that's how the program should operate. I don't think it should be just these random donations. I think the parents should pay for the educational help that their children need. As their parents, it's their duty as parents to provide for their education, but I think that they should get direct service and direct benefits in return for those payments, not simply pay into a system that works for itself. I don't believe that that's how it should work, and I don't want to be dependent on donations, on soliciting donations and things like that, because I think it's unnecessary. So just to recap, I'm not planning on making individual course lesson videos because I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think it's fair for paying parents in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy. Having said that, I understand that the students would benefit from the study led by an experienced tutor or fellow student, which would be me, that would benefit the students to be able to walk through the lesson with an experienced tutor, to be able to have the tutor make some comments on the lesson, and then have a tutor available to answer some questions and help the students. That would be very helpful to present students, and I'd be willing to do that. There's another principle I follow in my work in the Academy, and it's that I make the students act first, and I follow the students' lead. So wherever the students, under the direction of their parents, are working, that's where I give my attention. And if there's a place in the curriculum or in the program where students aren't currently working, I don't work on those parts of the program, even if they're parts that I think are very important and that I would love to work on. I focus on the parts of the program where the students are actually working, where parents are actually, directing their children to work. And then if a parent says, hey, what would you like my son or my daughter to work on? Well, then I have the opportunity to speak on behalf of the subjects that I would really like to see the kids study. But I always leave those decisions to the parents. They're ultimately responsible for their children's education. They're ultimately the authority that makes those decisions. So if parents are interested in having their children participate in video or watch video lessons and have the benefit of those lessons, then I think we have to organize group meetings. And I'd be happy to work with the kids to walk through these courses in a group meeting, in a live video meeting, and then I'd record those meetings and make those recordings available. But for me to prepare and post lesson videos that students won't even necessarily use, that just doesn't make sense. And I'm not concerned with the students who study for free, because I think just access to the organized curriculum is service enough for someone who's not paying anything. And then for basic student subscribers paying $25 a month to have the lessons and assessments and records and things like that, I think that's sufficient service for what's being paid. And then I would only be considering video lessons for the premium student plan subscribers, and they're more interested in tutoring and direct work between the students and either myself or my wife. So that's what I think about lesson videos and where things are at. Now, if there's a time of the year when I get a break and I can spare some time to work on some important topics, sure, I can do so, but I just don't see that as being the way that the Academy should develop or operate. And I'm going to continue to remain focused on my present students and make sure that my time, energy, and resources are devoted to helping them make progress in their studies and not just building up the Academy program. So I hope that's a helpful answer to sort of let you into my thinking on this question of whether I'll be making lesson videos. I would like to have group meetings for the subjects rather than publish standalone lesson videos, which is really not sustainable. So I hope that's helpful. If you have any other questions, just write or get in touch, because I'd be happy to talk about them. And if you like this idea of organizing group meetings, group Zoom meetings where we can meet, I can meet with the students in a Zoom meeting room, and we can have a number of students. It's okay if they're at different places in the course, because my meetings can be open to sort of start at the beginning and be helpful for beginning students and also for students who are already further along. I understand how to manage a meeting like that, but that would be the context I'd be interested in. And if there's no interest in that, then I just don't believe that the production of lesson videos is possible at this point in the academy, and I'd like to focus on tutoring instead. So I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, get in touch. God bless.